Let's look at this paper first of all. Now, this is really quite extraordinary. Really quite extraordinary. And this is the paper here. Unexpected detection of SARS coronavirus 2 antibodies in the pre-pandemic period in Italy. So that sounds like a contradiction in terms, doesn't it? But it appears now that it's not the pre-pandemic period. So many people have talked to me and say, well, in last, talking about 2019, November, December, they had particular sets of symptoms. Could it have been COVID? Well, let's look at the evidence. That's what the paper is for. Now, this is published in, I think this is published in Sage Open, actually. Yeah, Sage Open. Now, this is like it's like an international open source publishing journal, but it doesn't restrict itself to any one subject. It publishes on anything, but the key thing is it's open source, so anyone can read it and it's free. And I actually published one article in there myself once, and I do know from experience that the peer reviewing process they go through is really quite rigorous. So it's definitely a rigorous piece of science, and as such, it's really quite hard to argue against. Anyway, let's look at it. Presence of SARS coronavirus 2 receptor binding domain RBD specific antibodies. So this is what he was looking for. Antibodies to the receptor binding domain. Now, I think we all know this now. So there's the SARS coronavirus, there's the spikes, and at the end here we have the bit that fits into your cells, and the end part of that there that fits into the cells is the receptor binding domain. Now, if these are antibodies, and these antibodies were made to this receptor binding domain, and the antibodies are these Y-shaped molecules that fit onto it, like that, the antibodies. Now, if these antibodies are actually specific to this receptor binding domain, and they are, then that means they can only be generated when the body is exposed to the actual receptor binding domain. So this is an absolute definitive evidence for the presence of the virus. It so happened they collected blood samples in Italy from 959 asymptomatic individuals, and they were enrolled on a prospective lung cancer screening trial. Prospective. So what this research group were doing, official story from Italy, well, Italy's first 2 cases